Aloha everyone, I hope you're all keeping well and everything's good where you are. Welcome to another live lesson with me, Matt Stead. In today's lesson we're going to take a look at a really beautiful Hawaiian melody called Isa Lei, which is kind of like a farewell song, a bit like the Hawaiians Aloha Oi. And we're going to have a look at two-part harmony, where we take one note and we harmonise it with another note from the scale, typically one that's a third or a sixth above it. So all sorts of fun stuff. And at the end of it, you'll be able to play a beautiful chord melody arrangement of the piece, which will be really, really lovely. So let me know how you are, guys, where you are. I'm not going to talk about world events, just in case, what do they say? Never talk about politics, religion and sex. So I'm going to keep it off today's broadcast. But the one thing I will say is that I'm sending my love out to wherever you are in the world. So no matter how you feel about things, hopefully this will make you feel happy and warm and good today. So yeah. Leslie's got a question right off the bat. I was going to say, actually, if you can, make sure you've got live chat enabled so you can take part in the community chat, because it's a really lovely thing to do. And I love questions. There's no question too big or too small, nothing too silly. It helps me remember something that I might have forgotten to tell you, and it really brings up some interesting topics of conversation as well, which is really important, I think. So do ask questions as we go. The sheets are still available to print out. You'll find a link in the description and in the comments as well. It's £5 for the worksheets, or if you're a member of my website, which most of you are now. If you're not, head over to mattsteadukulele.com. You get those worksheets at no extra cost. They're included in your subscription. So Leslie was asking, why do Brits use the letter harmonisation, whereas Americans use the Z, or I guess you would say Z, Leslie. A good trivia question. Yeah, I'm not actually sure, I suppose. I guess it would have originated with kind of British English, wouldn't it? And then at some point when it's been Americanised over the years, it's changed, but Esther's probably got a better explanation of that than me. But it does make me think, when I'm writing out, it's the weirdest thing, even though I'm English, I have more US students than English students. Isn't that mad? I don't know why, but I do. So sometimes I think about that when I'm writing things out, which one I should use. And colour as well. You guys don't put U in it, do you? So it's interesting, but I guess those differences are what makes the world that little bit more interesting, isn't it? So it's all good. Fantastic. So as I say, we're going to have a look at a piece called Isa Lei today. Now, I looked this up earlier and I kind of wanted to find a meaning for it. What does it mean? And it's one of those words in Fiji that can mean many things. Mostly it's love, and it can also be used for hello, but also it can be used for despair and sadness as well. So it's ever so confusing. I suppose in some ways, it's a bit like the Hawaiian word aloha, which can be used in lots of different ways. But think of it as a farewell song. So if you're saying goodbye to someone, you're seeing someone off on a ship, this would be a lovely, beautiful, traditional song to play, which is lovely. I'll bring the sheets up on here. And what I'll do is, I think what I'll do before we get into the nitty-gritty of the tutorial, let me just go to the final version. I'll bring it up on screen, I'll come in on close camera, and I'll just play a very rough version. In fact, I might have to make that a bit smaller so you can see what I'm doing with my hands. Do you know what? I'll get rid of that for now. You can follow it in a minute on screen, then you can see what I'm doing this way. So this is just kind of a rough version of what we're going to do when we've played through all of the different ways of doing this. See if you already know about thirds and sixths. See if you can spot some of them, and see if you can watch some of the little techniques that we've got going on as well. So. Isn't that a pretty little melody? I think it's really, really, really beautiful. Kind of haunting, but really relaxing as well at the same time, which is lovely. So that's our aim at the end. It's not going to be kind of really tricky or too fiddly, and I'll break it down bit by bit for you. But before we do that, let's have a look at our first sheet. I'll bring it on screen for you so you can see it. And what we've got here is a worksheet of two-part harmonisation. So when we talk about harmonisation, you can get into lots of detailed music theory and really get into the nitty-gritty of it. But really, all we mean by harmonisation is two notes that sound good together. And over the years, we use something called the harmonic series, if you're really into your kind of music theory and history, where we've developed ways of halving scales to make new harmonic notes. But the important thing is we found notes within a scale, like a major scale, do, re, mi. We found that certain notes in that scale sound really, really beautiful together. And it's used in all forms of music. I like to use a classic example of Simon and Garfunkel. So Simon and Garfunkel, for instance, or the Everly Brothers do the same thing. One of them will perform a really simple melody, whatever it might be. And then another one will play notes either above or below that with a particular interval. So for instance, if I was going to do the Frère Jacques, Paul Simon would sing Frère Jacques, Frère Jacques, and then Art Garfunkel might sing the notes that are 3 above that. That would sound like this. Something like that. Isn't that lovely? I'll do that again. You can still hear that original melody, but adding those notes a third above makes it sound sweeter and harmonically much more interesting, which is really lovely. And traditionally, there were lots of different harmonisations. The earliest harmonisations were when in the early choirs in church music, they started using choir boys. And of course, choir boys can't hit the low notes that the men could sing. So they had to think of how they could do it. So the choir boys would sing a whole octave. That's a whole scale worth higher than the men. So when the men would sing a low C, low, the choir boys would sing a high C, high. And you put them together, you get a really beautiful harmonisation. The next most common harmonisation after that was thirds. And that's where we sing one note and then a note which is a third above or below it. And it's really easy peasy lemon squeezy, right? You can use your fingers to count this, and as long as you know your scales, you'll be able to find these notes easy peasy lemon squeezy. So let's say you're going to play a C note, just this low C here. If you wanted to harmonise that, we could do a note that's a third above it. Well, what does a third above it mean? It just means 3 notes above. When we talk about thirds or fourths or fifths or any kind of interval, we also include the one we start on. So a third above C, C, D, E, is an E. And you might think, well, that's only 2 gaps, but it's not the gaps we're talking about, it's the notes. So C, D, E, we would count that as a third. So a C note harmonises really beautifully with an E, and we can put those together. Isn't that lovely? A D note, that's the next note in the C major scale. Let's count up from D. We're playing in the key of C, so we're going to count up the C major scale from D. D, E, F. F would be 3 above a D. D, E, F. So we can play D, E, F. And if we play D and F together, it sounds really beautiful, doesn't it? So let's start to practice a few of these before we play the song. Let's have a look at these thirds along here. And what I'd like you to do with me really slowly is first of all just play the lower of the two notes. That means the bottom note in terms of the tablature and the bottom note in terms of the sheet music. You don't need to read sheet music, I'll talk you through this as we go. So basically we're going to play through a C major scale, but we're going to put these notes in a particular place to allow us to play a third above. And you'll see why we're doing it this way in just a second. So I'm going to play an open C. You can join in with me. Just pick it with your thumb. Then I'm going to play a D, 2nd fret of the C string. Next up I'm going to play an E, but rather than playing this one down here, I'm going to play it up here on the 4th fret. That's going to be really important for something in a minute. So I've got C, D, E. Then I'm going to play an F. This is the last note of the first measure, back here. G at 3. I'm going to go right up now to the 5th fret for an A rather than playing an open one. 7th fret for a B. And 8th fret for a C. Okay. If I put that together, watch my fingers, it will look and sound something like this. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Okay, that's really lovely, isn't it? So what we're going to do now is we're going to pair those up with notes that are a third above it. And this is the reason why we're playing that scale where I showed you there. So get starting on the C string and then mostly finishing on the E string. The reason is it opens up the higher notes that we can put a third above it. So this time, instead of just playing a C, we're going to pair it up with the E note below it, like so. And that's the 0, 0 at the start of your tabs. Then we're going to play that D note, and we're going to put our first finger down here on this F note down here, because D, E, F, that's a third. We're going to keep that shape down, and we're going to go up to 4 and 3 to play an E and a G at the same time. E, F, G, another third. Already that's sounding really beautiful, isn't it? Have a listen. That's a bit like the M part Frere Jacques, isn't it? Do, me, fo. Really lovely. Now that's the reason why we're playing an E here. I will come on to normal camera in a while. I know you're talking to a headless body at the moment, or listening to a headless body, but just really have a watch of my fingers. The reason is we need to harmonise an E note with a G note, and of course normally you would play a G note here, wouldn't you? You could also do an open one, but on the E string you play one here. And you can't do an open E and that G at the same time. So that's why we play an E up here and the G here, and we get that lovely harmonisation. Okay. Then the last note of that first measure, we've got an F. We're harmonising that with an A, just the open A string. Lovely. Then we go to a G here, and we're harmonising that with this B down here, the 2. That's G and B. Then we're going to go up. Again, the next note in our C major scale is an open A, or an A note. Now, normally we'd do an A here, wouldn't we? But we can't harmonise that with a higher note, because if we play that note, we can't play a higher note at the same time. So instead of playing an A here, we're going to play the 5th fret of the E string here. Same note, look. And then we're going to harmonise that with this C note. Isn't that pretty? Why are we harmonising it with a C note? Well, if we count up from A, B, C. A third above A is a C note. So let's do that. There we go. That's this 5 and 3. And then we go up 2 higher. Okay. This time we've got a B and a D note. And then we finish way up here with a C and an E note, like so. Okay, so that's from the lowest note to the highest note in there. Let me put that together really slowly so you can follow. 0, 0, 2, 1, E and G, F and A, that's 1, 0, G and B flat, 3 and 1. Whoops, 3 and 2. I did the wrong one. And then we've got 5 and 3. We've got 7 and 5. And finally we finish it off with a C and an E up here. That's a C major scale harmonised in thirds. And we can play it all the way back down like this. Now that in itself is really beautiful, isn't it? It's a lovely kind of way of creating a scale but making it sound much more beautiful with some harmonisation. And that's used in so many pieces of music. Have a look at those first few ones I did again. That C and E, D and F, E and G. Have a listen to this piece of music. This is Slumber Song. This is from James Hill's book. It's a bit of Schubert, believe it or not, or Schubert if you're old-fashioned. And see if you can spot those thirds as I play it. If I come in close, you'll spot them. And all its classical music is chock full of these. Here's one. Here's lots. Have a listen to this. Isn't that cool? Hear that? Now that's really lovely, that little melody there, because it's stacked thirds, we call them. You can always spot thirds in sheet music because there's one note on top of another. Can you see that up there? If you look at the first 4 measures, all of the notes are one on top of each other like that. That's how you can spot stacked thirds. And it makes that piece of music much more interesting because you have that beautiful harmonisation. If I played that bit without harmonisation, it would sound like this. I'll do that again. But with the harmonisation. Much more beautiful, right? And you can spot it in all sorts of music. Hawaiian players often do it to make little passages a little bit more interesting. Here's a little arrangement of a Hawaiian piece that I've been working on. It just goes something like this. Now that first bit just opens with this lovely EFG like this. And sometimes to make it more interesting, I'll harmonise that like this. It makes it sound more interesting, right? And really, really beautiful. Yeah, Indrani's got a really nice way of putting it. It kind of makes it rounder. It thickens it up, doesn't it? And makes it beautiful. And one of your challenges after today is I'd like you to see if you can spot these stacked thirds in music. See if you can spot them in the tablature, the sheet music, or even better, see if you can hear them. And what I want you to do is each time you practice this piece, really work through those thirds. Practice them in isolation, so just the C major scale, and then add those notes that are a third above, and you'll get a really, really beautiful sound. Another type of harmonisation is harmonising in fifths. I'm not going to spend too much time on this because it's used in a lot of modal music and early church music. So you do hear it in kind of things kind of pre-Bach, kind of really going back to think things like Greensleeves and that kind of modal music. You hear it in a lot of that, but it's not used in a lot of modern pop music, so it doesn't come up very often, and it's not used in a lot of classical music after about 1800. But in the early days, fifths were one of the most common intervals. So here, this is starting from measure 9 now, we've got fifths. So just like with the third, you have to include the note you start on. So a fifth will be the note you start on, and then up to the note that's 5 above it. So C, D, E, F, G. So a fifth in this instance will be C and G. And that's what we've got here. Look at that. After the double bar lines on measure number 9, 0 and 3, we've got this open C here, and we're pairing it up with a G down here. Next up, we've got a D. What's that paired up with? D, E, F, G, A, B. a D and a B. So that will sound like this. No, it's not. It's an A. I'm being daft. I can't count. D, E, F, G, A. I obviously can't count D and an A. That sounds like sound of silence, doesn't it? Starts with a fifth. And then you can go on so on and so forth. And you get these shapes as you go up. Notice how those sound, they have an almost medieval sound to them, don't they? So kind of a little bit more basic sounding than the thirds, not quite as sophisticated, I think. And they have a kind of traditional, almost like a medieval quality to them. So you can have a play through those, but I wouldn't worry too much on practicing those because they don't come up in a lot of classical music and they don't come up in a lot of pop music as well. The other interval that is really common in both pop music and classical music is the sixth. And this is even bigger than the fifth. You count up, you've guessed it, you just count up 6. So a fifth above C, C, D, E, F, G, A, and A would be a 6 above a C. So this is starting on measure 13 or down here where it says 6 over on the left. And what I want you to do as you work through these with me, let's do both notes at the same time to save a bit of time. I really want you to have a look at my left hand and think about the fingers that we're using, because we're going to use these sixths in the song, and how you form these is really, really important in terms of keeping it fluid. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by picking a C string open and an A string open. Okay, nice and easy. Then we're going to go to a D and a B. Notice, importantly, I'm using my first 2 fingers, almost like I'm playing a G chord. Then when I go up to the next one where I'm playing an E and a C at the same time, I'm going to use my middle 2 fingers. Next one, 5 and 5, I'm going to use my last 2 fingers like so. I can take that up to 7 and 7, I'll tip so you can see my dots. Then when I go up to 8 and 9, I'm going to use my middle 2 fingers again. I'm going to take that shape. If you can, we get really high now up here to 10 and 11. And then if you can, just squeeze your last 2 fingers in 12. So notice, the reason I'm doing that is it makes it easier. If I just use these 2 fingers, then when I get to the next one, I've got to switch out uncomfortably to here, and then I've got to, there's lots of switching, whereas if I do it this way, do you see how kind of ergonomic that is? And we're actually going to put this into Isa Lei as a little passage that goes. So we're going to do those fingers. So let's practice that again. 0 and 0. First 2 fingers. Middle 2. And then last 2. And then if we want to keep going up, we can walk it all the way up. And right up here to finish off. And we can come back down. Started. So that's harmonizing in 6. So this is all in the key of C. So if you want to practice that, work through that gradually and putting these 2 notes together. Now in Hawaiian music, these are used loads in Hawaiian music. They use a lot of these sixths. It's a really common interval. And in slack key Hawaiian music, ki ho alu, what they do is they pair that up with an alternating bass pattern using the thumb. But often it's used in ukulele music as well. You'll see these shapes going up and down. You can also play sixths on consecutive strings, so it's the same notes but on consecutive strings, and these are also called double stops. These 2 notes together where we go up and down the fretboard are called double stops. So if you ever hear anyone mentioning that, that's exactly what they're on about, double stops. So from measure 17 we can do this. It starts the same way because we have to start it on 2 strings. This is the only way we can do it. Then 2 and 2. Then this time we're going to do 0 and 3 down here. That's an E and a C on the E and A strings. 1 and 5, bit of a stretch this one. We take that shape up here to 7 and 3, stretch it out. We put it closer together on 8 and 5. We go up to 10 and 7. And we finish it off by going right up here to 8 and 12. So, and again, you can play that through and have a little experiment with these. You can come up with some really beautiful pieces of music just doing them. A lot of my pieces. Here's one of my kind of original pieces. Let me just move this out of the way temporarily. This is based on these shapes. I'll sometimes even take them way up there. You'll see a lot of Jake Shimabukuro songs where he does these kind of shapes. He's well into using sixths to create lovely bits of harmony. So there we go. So that's what we want to do, is just work through those. Oh yeah, make sure you move your thumb. Yeah, that's it. You've got to move your thumb out of position, Esther. You've got it. Takes a bit of practice, these going up and down the fretboard, but it's a great thing to do. Practice your double stops. As I say, I wouldn't worry about the fifths too much because they don't come up that often, but do practice these thirds and sixths and see if you can spot them in pieces of music. You'll see them all over the place. So let's have a look at the piece of music we're going to use to highlight these today, which is a beautiful melody called Isa Lei. Let's have a look. As I say, it's a Fijian melody, a kind of goodbye song, if you like, their version of Aloha Oi, which is really nice. And I've laid it out 3 different ways. We're going to start with just the melody on its own so we can get the timing down right. Then we're going to do a version with chords, which is based on what you would imagine the chords would be that would come up. And then I'm going to change the chords up slightly and we're going to add these beautiful little harmony moments. You'll see them. Can you see those kind of double stops on that second line, second measure over? You'll see them there. And in fact, right on that line at the measure at the end that I'm pointing to there as well, which is great. So let's have a look at the melody first. It's really, really beautiful. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get you to just pick these notes with your thumb. Just literally just pick with your thumb. If you've got a nail on your thumb, try and use the middle part of your thumb as you drag down over the string. Like so. And if you can, try moving the whole hand as you pick for a warmer tone, or you can experiment by lightening it up with just keeping your hand here and just very lightly moving that thumb down. The reason I use the middle part of my thumb rather than the side is it stops me catching the note. Have you ever played Duke fingerstyle and you've accidentally kind of made it sound really twangy and it's like really uncomfortable? And that's because the side of your nail is catching the string. Whereas if you use the middle part of your nail at an angle like so, see how warm and lovely that is. It's really beautiful. If you haven't got any nail at all, just use your pad and you'll still get a lovely warm tone there. So that's what we're going to do in terms of the picking hand. And then what we're going to do is we're going to practice this melody one phrase at a time. Now the timing of this, once you get it, you'll be like, you'll find it easy peasy lemon squeezy, but the first time you look at it you'll think, oh, it's kind of tricky. And the reason it's a little bit tricky is that it's got some dotted notes. A dotted note like the first note of the second measure, that 3, that G note. A dotted note means you play the note for 1.5 times its normal length. So that note at the start of the second measure, that 3, which is a G note, instead of playing it for 1 beat, you play it for 1.5 beats. Now that can be quite hard to count, but I'll show you how to count it. It's easy peasy lemon squeezy when you get there. So let's have a look. We're going to open with this E and F. And that's just, you can think of that as 4 and. 1, 2, 3, 4 and then we hit this G note. Now to count a note that's 1.5 beats, what you do is you count the number, the and the next number, but don't count the and afterwards. I'll show you what I mean. It sounds really complex, but it's not. I'll show you what I mean. So when you hit that G, count 1 and 2. Don't count the and afterwards, just 1 and 2. So that's the G note, 1 and 2. And then the notes that follow them are and, 3 and, 4 and. Okay? I'll put that together, you'll see what I mean. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then if you want, you can finish the phrase with the start of the next one. All right, let's do that again. So come in after, let's come in after 2, 3, 2, 3, 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Does that make sense, guys? Really, really simple once you think of it like that. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, which is a really good thing to do. Sometimes when I practice in these notes, I won't even play the melody. Just to get the timing, I'll just pinch a string. So I'll do like 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, just to kind of get the idea for it, basically. Matt's making lots of lemon juice today. I don't even know what that means, Indrani. But don't squeeze too hard. I have no idea what's going on. You guys will have to explain that in a minute. I'm like, oh, I don't know. Okay, so that's your little opening measure, which is really beautiful, that first part. Let's play it together. Come in after 2, 3. I come in on close camera. 2, 3. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Notice I'm using multiple fingers there as well, so try not to, which would be really uncomfortable. Try and use multiple fingers. And 2 and 3 and 4. Okay, up to there. Then the next part, which starts from where it says F, you're going to take your little finger up here to the 8th fret, drop back to 7. Now it's the same timing here, okay? Oh, easy peasy lemon squeezy. I get it. Thanks, Karen, for saving my blushes. Thank you. Yeah, so I've got catchphrases. I promise I don't rehearse them. They just seem to come up automatically, so it seems to be one of my favourites. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Okay, so let's do that again. We've got this 8th fret now. This is a high F note. Then when we hit this next note, the 7, again, count 1 and 2. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. All right, so that makes sense. Let me put that whole first line together. You can enjoy it. You can play it with me, or if you like, you can join in afterwards. So 2, 3, 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Yeah, fantastic. Let's try and do it together without the counting. 2, 3. Up to the 8ths. And then the next flurry. Really beautiful, yeah, fantastic. Then we've got that 0, 1 at the end, and notice there's a repeat marker, a thick line and 2 dots. That just means we go back and we do it again. Okay, and then we go up to 8, 8, 8, 7, and then next flurry, 3, 2, 3, 5, 2, 3. Yeah, lovely. Lovely, fantastic. It's a super little melody, isn't it? It's really, really beautiful for sure. I suffer that every day of the week. Okay, so that's your opening section. Da 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 da. Da, 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 da. Then we go to this next part, which starts on measure 6. We've already played that 3 at the start because it's like the end of or the start of this measure. So after you've done your, we play that C note at the start of measure 6. Then we've got this 3-2, an A note, 0, played for a whole 2 beats, 1 and 2 and. See, that's a little bit more straightforward, isn't it? And then A, G, 0, 3. And then we've got that, in this measure, we've got that awkward timing again. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and that takes us to the start of the next line. Measure 10, the last 2 notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and to the 7. 1 and 2. Like so. All right, fantastic. Let's try playing the whole thing together. Again, if you go wrong, doesn't matter. Just follow the tablature. If you don't get the timing perfectly for now, don't sweat it. You can perfect that later on. But just think about those dotted notes counting 1 and 2. Don't count the and afterwards. Hit the and on the next note and you'll be absolutely fine. Let's give it a go. Let's try it together. Okay, so 2, 3. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and I mucked up. I'll do that again. Sorry guys, it's because I'm trying to count and say the numbers. You know when you see numbers and you're trying to count different numbers at the same time. I'll do that without counting. Here we go. 2, 3 and 2 and 2 and 3 and 2. Then we go again, 0, 1 and 2 and 2 and 3 and 2. Lovely. Next measure, 6. Measure 7 and 2 and 2 and 3 and bottom line, 3, 2, open A, 1 and 2 and 2 and 2. Fantastic, there you go. So you can take that, even if you haven't got that straight away, you can always watch the video back later, you can pause it. If you're watching this on YouTube, not now, but later on if you rewatch it, you can hit the playback speed, hit those 3 dots and playback speed, and you can slow that down to go as slow as you want, or of course just practice those through on your own and you'll get that in no time. So let's start making this a little bit more interesting. Just before we do, let's just have a look at the chords. Really interesting. Just like Hawaiian music, a lot of Pacific music is based on the 1, 4 and 5 chords. So in the key of C, that's the C, the F and the G chord. And that G, more often than not, is played as a G7, just like in Hawaiian music. And that's what we've got going on here. Now, you could elongate this to kind of twice the length, but at the length it is at the moment, notice how short those sections are. We've only got 4 measures in the opening bit, and then a repeat, and then another 4 measures. And then we've only got another 4 measures in the next section, and you join them together and you get 12 altogether, with the repeats adding to a little bit more. So quite a short form, really. And there's a couple of other unusual things as well. Notice that the F chord comes in right at the end of measure 2, just for 2 beats. So if you're strumming this, that would sound something like this. Da da da, da 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 da. Da da da, da 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 da. Join in with me if you like. C and C, C and C and C and C, 2, 3. F and C, G7 and C. And again. C, 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 C. F and C, G7 and C. Next section. Then F, 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 C, 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 G, 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 C, bottom line, C, C, F, 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 C, 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 G7, and back to C. It's a lovely one to strum, that, isn't it? Really gentle and really beautiful. So an unusual kind of structure there, which I think is interesting. That will help when we're putting the chords in. Rebecca was just saying, can I do measure 8 again? I see quarter notes, but I thought I heard eighth notes. Let's have a look. Measure number 8. That's the one down here. If I just do, I'll do that second section from measure number 7 for you, Rebecca, so you can hear it. I'll do it with the timing as well, because that will help everyone. So if we go from measure number 6, we've got that C that we've just finished that section for. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and... Let me do that again. I'm getting in a muddle of my counting now. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 1. Does that make sense? Hopefully I've counted that right, Rebecca. I think I may have rushed. You probably heard me rush one of the notes the first time I did it, but that's how I want to count it. I'll do that one more time from measure 6. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 1. Hopefully that makes sense. I've got a feeling I might have rushed one of those notes the first time, Rebecca, so you probably heard that. That's all it was. Sometimes when I count and say the tab numbers at the same time, my brain just goes but hopefully that helps with the timing. The second section, in some ways it's easier because, like on measure 7, you've got those nice notes that have for 2 beats. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, which is more straightforward. You haven't got the dotted notes, but then when the dotted note does come back in, and 2, you've just got to be ready that before you get to the next one. So you kind of be prepared that in this measure here that note's going to come in on the half. So hopefully that helps. Oh, no worries, Sarah. I guess I'm pretty tiny. I'm like tiny thing on your iPhone. Let us know where you are, Sarah Jane. Hope you're somewhere beautiful and you're having a fantastic time. And thanks for tuning in on your holiday. That's like dedication. I'll take that as the ultimate compliment. So thank you. Okay. All right. Let's have a look at making this more interesting. So now we're going to turn it into a chord melody. So what we're going to do is we're going to take those chords that we're just practicing, we're going to put them together with the melody, and we're going to play both melody and the chords at the same time. Now, remember, when you're doing a chord melody arrangement, you have to make sure you play a chord at some point because you need the chords in there. And I've generally put them where the chords would naturally come up in the key in the song, rather than putting a chord, say, on the first beat and on the third beat first beat, third beat, I've kind of put them up where the chords naturally occur in the song. So notice in that second measure, the F comes in right on the last beat, and that's because that's where it comes in at that particular point, basically. So, so what we're going to do then is let's have a look at how this works. So when we play a chord at the same time as a melody note, we need to make sure we include the melody note in it. And we need to make sure that that melody note is the last thing we hear, because it's really important. So the opening phrase, the melody was E, F, G. On the E string, that's 0, 1, 3. And when we hit this G note, we're going to play a C chord at the same time. Now, a C chord would look like this, wouldn't it? Okay. Now, oh, Southsea in West Sussex. That's right, nothing wrong with West Sussex. Not this time of year for this, but that's one of my favourite places to go butterfly hunting. So it's brilliant down there. If you go in sort of June, July, August, it's a great place for butterflies. You probably already know that. So, yeah. Esther says I'm even tinier in real life. I'm not that small. I'm not like midget or anything. Not, oh gosh, that's really un-PC. Small person, you know what I mean. Oh my goodness. Right, okay, back to it, because I'm making an idiot of myself now. So that C chord, we're going to add the G melody note to it. So we're going to strum down the C chord until you hit the melody note, which is this note here. And we're going to stop because we want this note to ring out. Now, because we aren't strumming that A string, you can do away with that finger and just do this, 0, 0, 3. I'll use my third finger like this. So we're going to do off 1 and then drag down. So you get the sense of a C chord, but with a lovely G note. Now, you could do that traditional kind of Pima style, finger style. In that case, you might have to do a little roll. Like that, so you really hear that G note coming up. Or you can just make sure you pick extra hard on that string like so. But I really like the thumb, because I think it's, oh, let me. Because I think it's mellower, it's simpler, and it's beautiful and mellow. So I tend to do my thumb when I'm doing a chord melody like this, just drag it down and just really dig in after you hit that melody note. Then we have that little flurry of notes start from this G, this 3 off 2, 3, 5. And then we're going to go way up to the 7th fret, and this time instead of just hitting the note, we're going to drag our fingers over all 4 strings. That gives us the sense of a C chord, because a C chord, the notes that make up C chord are C, E and G, and here we have a C, an E and a G. And we also have the high E melody note. So if I put that together, it will look and sound something like this. 1 and 2. Let's do that together. Come in after 2, 3. 2, 3. And 2. Nice. Then we go up to an F melody note. Remember we had this A, 8, 7 like this. Now the first 2 chords here are F chords, or the first chord is an F chord. So we're going to do this shape, barring the whole of the 5th fret, little finger on the 8th fret like so. And then just pick the A string. The reason that works as an F chord is we've taken a C chord up to C sharp, to D sharp, to E, and to an F. So this is an F chord. Okay. And then we drag back to that 7 again. Okay, so that bit will sound like this. Really simple yet beautiful, isn't it? Then we go for this last little flurry of notes. We come back to this C, the 3rd fret of the A string. Briefly hit a G7 because we want to hear that G7, the 5 chord. 3rd fret, 5th fret, 2nd fret, and then we end with a C chord. Now the timing will be like this. really, really nice. Really beautiful. So I'll put that whole line together in just a second. And Wayne's just saying, seems to me one could have a dotted half in measure 8 and then 2/8. Let's have a look. Do. Yeah, you could do that, Wayne, and I think that's what I might have played by mistake the first time. It kind of gives it almost like a bit of swing, doesn't it? Yeah, so it could work that way. But yeah, we'll do it as written, even though I didn't the first time. We'll do it as written for now. But you're quite right, it would sound nice like that too. Okay, so let's try the whole of that first line then, chord melody. Join in with me. We'll go really slowly after 2, 3. 2, 3. Off 1, 0, 0, 3, 7 and strum. This shape up here, 7, back to 3, G7, 3, 5, 2, C. Then we do it again, off 1, C to G. To 7, that F shape, 7, 3rd fret, G7. Isn't that gorgeous? I think that's really beautiful, that. Really simple, but really beautiful. I love this. This was one of the first tunes that I really got into on ukulele. There's a lovely book. His version's not exactly the same as mine, but there's a lovely book by a guy called Mark. I'm just trying to find it. Mark Kailana Nelson. I've got 2 of his books here. I can't remember which one it's in, but he's got this one called Favourite Fingerstyle Solos and Fingerstyle Duets. It's in one of those, and he does a lovely version, slightly different to mine, but I kind of learnt it from Mark, and I've had it in my mind all this time. Whenever I just kind of pick up my ukulele and noodle, I love playing this melody. I think it's really, really beautiful. Let's have a look at the next half then. So measure 6 replaces measure number 5 the second time. So after you've done this bit on measure number 4, where we've got this 7, where is it? Up here. I'll tip so you can see my dot. That now will be the start of measure 6. All right, so second time as you play measure 4. Ignore measure 5 and hit that C chord at the start of measure 6. Then we've got a really simple bit. We just do this 3-2, C, B. F chord all the way. The reason that F chord works is that the melody note is an A, like so, and when you hit F all the way, the melody note you hear is that A note, so it works perfectly. Then we've got this simple measure 7, just off 2, 3 off, 0, B, A, B, C, A. Whoops, sorry, I did again. Don't think my brain's working today, and 0, 0, 3. All right, so that measure from the F will be. And then next measure, A, G. Now here, there's something important that will help with this measure here, where we've got this G chord. Now, just think about your fingering here, because there's something that will make the next bit much easier. When you hit this G chord here, excuse me, the one that says 0, 2, 3 just down here, it's based on a G chord like this, but the melody note is this G note here, right? So we don't want to strum this string here down the bottom, because that would give us this B note. But we want to end on this G note, on the E string. Now, normally you would play a G like that, but what I want you to do is use these 2 fingers like so. Middle 2 fingers. Okay. The reason being is that we've just finished with our 3rd finger here. And then you've only got to add 1 more finger. But it also means that the next bit, you've got this 1st finger that can drop back to this 1 for these F notes. See how that smooths everything out? If I go from the 0, 3 in measure, what is it? Measure 8, it will look like this. See how smooth that is. So you can either write that in 2 and 3 on that G chord, or just remember. That takes us to measure 10. Then we repeat the same thing. This CB, 3, 2. F chord all the way. Just that little flurry of notes at the end. A, B, C, A. C to a G. Then we climb the fretboard, 3, 5, that's C, D. Up to this unusual C chord with the 7th fret. And then a final flurry of notes. And a C chord to finish. Really quite simple, that bit. I often like to repeat those last kind of that last phrase. Okay, should we try that then, guys? Let's try the whole of this version. So I count 2, 3. Come in really slowly with me. Remember, if you can't do it in a moment, just take it nice and slowly, or just soak it all in and then have a go later when you feel comfortable. I'll just scooch over a bit so you can see both hands. Here we go. 2, 3. And 2. And 2. And 3. And 2. 2 and 3 and back to the start. And 2 and 3 and now that after the repeat, 3 2s, measure 6, F chord, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2. Bottom line, CB, 3 2, F chord, 3 5, 7, last flurry. Fantastic, really lovely. So gorgeous little tune, and quite a sweet arrangement like that. I've kept things relatively basic. Now let's finally combine everything we've learnt today in one final arrangement. If I flip between the two, look, there's not a massive amount of difference. You just see a few extra notes appearing magically as I go between the two, because it's largely the same thing. But I've just introduced a few extras to make it more interesting. There's a little bit of ornamentation, nothing too tricky. I'll explain what that is in a sec. And also some of those lovely kind of harmonizations, 2-part harmonizations as well. So let's take a look. I'm just going to take a quick look. It's gone a bit cold here, so our heating's on full blast. And whenever our heating's on, I get a really dry throat. It really dries me out. Okay, so notice the first two notes, we've got something very slightly different here. Nothing too fancy pants. Instead of just playing E, F, 0, 1, we're going to slur it or hammer on. So we're going to hit that E open, and then we're going to push down our index finger relatively forcefully. Imagine you're hitting through the string and right into the wood. And we only pick the ones. Okay, that gives a nice smooth opening. Then we're going to take that first finger up to the 3rd fret, and we're going to put this finger down here for this E note, and we're going to strum the top 3. Notice how smooth you can make that if you... Really simple. But effective. And if you look, this is one of our double stop shapes, isn't it? An E and a C that we learned at the start. So already I'm using that. And I like this C better than this C. because this C only has a C and 2 Gs in it, whereas this one also has this E note in it. So it's really nice. So that's the first change, nothing too drastic. Then we've got that little flurry of notes again. Now this time, instead of just hitting the 7th fret up here, we're also going to introduce a G note here. So we've got this 3 and 7. Bit of a stretch, that one. Try and keep your wrist as straight as possible. Try not to bend it because it'll make that reach really hard. If you keep it as straight as possible, pull that arm back, you'll be able to get that more comfortably. And this one here, this double stop 3 and 7, this is one of the double stops from our first sheets, the bottom line. Can you see on measure 18 down there? You've got a 3 and a 7. That's a G and a high E note. So you get that nice 6th interval. So we're using those double stops. And this is used a lot by artists. James Hill does it. Jake Shimabukuro does an awful lot of this. These C chords using this shape. It's kind of real open sounding chord, which is really lovely. Smooths everything out. Okay. I'm going to put that together from the start really slowly so you can see it. So hammer on. Double stop. And then for the F chord, rather than doing a whole barred F chord, which I think sounds a little bit too kind of closed, I'm adding a couple of open notes to that F chord. I'm playing 0, 0, 5, 8 like this. So we get this nice open G and C. A really Hawaiian thing to do that. Again, it's like a partial chord based on a double stops. Okay. And then I pull back to where I was before. I do that really slowly so you can see it. Just take that shape up, like so. Then we're back to where we were, only this time after I've done the G7 chord, I'm going to slide 3 to 5. Pick once and just slide that little finger up. Back to 2 and strum. Isn't that really lovely? So we get this if I do that in timing, all the same length. Let me do the whole of that opening phrase then. It's really, really, really sweet. Have a listen. Really lovely. You can just have a little practice of that later on, do it in your own time, really work through it. But notice we're using those lovely double stops just to create a different sense of things. Oh, sun is rising over Kaneho. Oh, I can't say it now, even though I've been there, Tim. Kaneho Bay. Beautiful. I went for a swim there, Tim, after I had a lesson with Jeff Peterson. Slack key guitar lesson at his house in Kaneohe, and afterwards he said, oh, you should definitely go down to the beach, it's beautiful. So we drove down to the bottom, and there's that lovely inlet, isn't there, where it's almost like the river comes out into the sea, and I guess you call it a creek. And my kids met up with a couple of Hawaiian children and they were hunting for crabs together. It's really lovely, and I had a swim. It was like the most idyllic morning ever. A slack key lesson with Jeff Peterson and then a swim down at the beach afterwards. It was beautiful. You live in a gorgeous place, Tim. That's such happy memories from that place. Next time I'm coming over, we'll take you out for dinner. Okay, anyway, sorry everyone. Sorry. You can all come to Hawaii with me. I can't pay for you all, but we'll all have an amazing time. Wouldn't that be fun? I'd love that. Okay, right, so that's your opening phrase. Let's have a look at what happens in the next bit. Now, this is where those two-part harmonies really come into their own again. We've got a lot of that happening in measure 7. Let's just take a quick look at measure 6. Exactly the same as before. Strum that C chord. And then just CB, 3, 2. F chord all the way. Now remember, the original melody went like this. Whoops, I got the wrong note at the end. I'll do that again. There we go. Now that's okay, but if we pair that up with notes that harmonise with it, this time I'm going to harmonise it with notes that are a sixth below it, it will sound like this. Isn't that beautiful? It thickens it up and yeah, thanks Tim. It thickens it up and it sounds really, really gorgeous, doesn't it? So that's the beauty of two-part harmonisation. Thanks Rebecca. Practice, practice, practice makes perfect. It's well worth taking your time with this because it sounds really beautiful when you've got it. So those notes, those sixths that rise up in measure 7, they're an exact replica of what we did on the first page here at the start of measure 13. Look at that, measure 13. So all we've got to do is we've got to think about the fingers that we use. I'm going to pinch with my thumb and my index finger with my picking hand. You could use whichever fingers feel comfortable. I just like that. It sounds nice and simple. And then think about the fingers on your other hand as you go up. I like to use my first two, because then I can use my middle two and come back off. And then I finish with another of those 0, 4, 3s. All right. What you don't want to do is kind of lots of awkward movements. So just think of a way to make that really nice and simple. And that's where I do it. First 2 fingers, middle 2, off. Isn't that lovely? So if I go from measure 6, that'll sound like this. Okay. Then I do an A and a G, 0, 3. That partial G, again, use those middle 2 fingers. Now again, another little bit. This is my favourite bit, this. I was quite proud when I came up with this bit, even though it's dead simple. I just think it sounds really sweet. So originally it would have sounded like this. Which is pretty, right? But listen to this. How pretty is that? Just those added notes. So what I've done is I've taken the original melody, which is F, E, F, A, G, G, and I've paired it up with notes that are this time a third below. And remember what I said at the start about those stacked thirds? You can always spot them because if you look at the sheet music, 2 notes on top of each other like that, like 2 potatoes, you can always spot those stacked thirds. So I've taken this E note and I've played a note that's 3 below it. And I like to count upwards rather than downwards. C, D, E. This C note is 3 below this E note, okay? So I'm going to play those open. Next up was an F note here, and I'm playing a note that's 3 below that, which would be a D, D, E, F. Next note was this open A, and I'm playing a note that's 3 below that. That's kind of awkward to count because A is our first note, isn't it? So you have to go up, don't you, from F, G, A. So an A, F and an A. And then I go back to another one of these E and Gs. So isn't that really sweet? So if you ever want to do it yourself and you've got a little bit of kind of melody line that you want to embellish and make it sound a bit more beautiful, my favourite is a third. That's the obvious one to start with. Think about, can you add a note that's a third above or a third below? Some arrangers like to go above, some arrangers like to go below. I like to go below, even though it's a bit harder to think about because you've got to count backwards, because you end up landing on your original melody note. If I go above, it would kind of sound... It kind of wouldn't have that same sound, whereas because I'm finishing... on the melody note, it's the last thing my thumb hits. it keeps that original melody a little bit more clearer. So that's how I like to do it. And again, if you compare that measure there, that measure 9 there, and if we flip back to our second page again, here, you can see those thirds. I'm using those, that 0, 0, that 1 and 2, and the 3 and 4 at the start of that line, and the next one. So it's a lovely thing to do. You don't even have to do all the counting. I've got them ready made here for you. So if you want to put those into another melody, that'd be fantastic. If anyone manages to do that and post it onto the Facebook page, I might send you a set of badges like we get for our challenges to say well done, because I'd be really impressed. The first person to do it. If you all do it, I won't have enough badges. So first person to post a melody using these, you can get a set of badges. Okay, so let's go back to finish it off then. So that was this measure here, which is really lovely. That takes us down to the bottom line now, where we've got another one of those kind of double stop shapes, this 4 and 3. And this bit's a repeat of what we did before again. 3, 2, F chord all the way. And then I'm going to pinch to do this little stacked 6 bit. Okay. And then just at the end, 3, 5. And again, rather than just doing 0, 0, 0, 7, I'm going to put this G note in for a double stop shape, which sounds way more kind of Hawaiian, doesn't it? This, even though it's from Fiji, it still has that lovely Pacific Islands feel. And then finally, our last flurry of notes. Slide this last one. On that C note. Thanks, Wayne. Thank you. So if I go from measure 10, I'll do that bottom line for you. If you like, you can also put the G7 in that last bit. I'm not sure why I left the G7 out, to be honest. I think it does sound nice with that G7 in. I must have just forgotten to squeeze it in there. It's just like the one up here on the first line. If you want to do that, it sounds lovely. And again, I like to, when I do that bottom line, I'll play bottom line one more time. I like to repeat the phrase, the last phrase, because I think it's a lovely way to end it. So that last phrase was just starting midway through measure 13. If you wanted to do a repeat of that, sounds really lovely, doesn't it? So hopefully you'll see that adding these double stops in, these beautiful stacked thirds or sixths, it really adds something to a piece of music. So you could either do this to your own arrangements, which would be a really lovely thing to do, or if you're working on an arrangement that someone else has done and it has lots of those single note melody parts, try putting a few of these notes in and they sound really, really delicious. And even if you're not interested in that, just have a go at this as a beautiful arrangement. Hopefully you'll really enjoy it. It's a lovely thing to do. Just a little reminder that you don't have to just use your thumb in this one, because it goes between the two. You could go traditional finger style. I find when I do traditional finger style, Pima, where I'm picking up my fingers, it sounds a little bit more tinny and not quite as thick sounding, which is nice. It will kind of look like this. So I pick like that using these fingers, let's say. It's partly because this is quite a bright uke, but notice it's got like quite a bright sound to it when I do finger style. If I do a finger drag, it calms it a little. It makes it easier because my fingers are all in the right place, but I do think that sounds prettier. with the thumb. See what I mean? So experiment with both and see what you think. And that's the beautiful thing about ukulele playing. I quite often get asked when people are doing fingerstyle, should they use their thumb and 3 fingers? Should they use their thumb to strum? Should they use their thumb on the top 2 strings and 1 finger down here? Kimo Hussey always uses these same 2 fingers, doesn't he? Should they use their index finger for everything? And the answer is there's no right answer. Ideally, what you want to do is practice all sorts of different ways of doing it, and basically think about which sounds best on the piece. If I'm doing like a real kind of fast, like kind of fast piece like that, I'll do fingerstyle because I like that tinnier sound. But when I'm doing like something really mellow, I prefer the thumb sound. I think it's got a warmer sound, and sometimes I'll kind of mix them up. Sometimes I'll kind of so and other times it really depends on the piece. So experiment, and see what works with you. See what you can find, and experiment and see what you enjoy most of all. So, good. Thank you. Thanks, Leslie. That's great to hear. A bit of music theory. It's not bad, is it? As long as it's not too heavy, I think it's a good thing for everyone. So fantastic. Thank you. Thanks, Shona. I'll be honest, this is between you lot and me. I haven't left the house today, so I wouldn't even know if it's dark and misty. So actually, no, that's a bit of a lie. I did do the school run this morning, so it's yeah, I've no idea what it's been like after that. Ben said, if Matt hasn't already mentioned it, check out Dennis Paval's recording of this tune on the posthumously released album Keiki Kapuna. Oh, fantastic, Benjamin. I don't actually know that version. I'm going to have to look it up. I was listening to his version of, what is it? I'll Remember You. I was doing a slack key version that Jeff Peterson wrote, and I got really into it. And the Dennis Paval version was really, really beautiful. So, yeah, nice. Keiki Kapuna. That's nice. Does that mean children of Kapuna? That's cool. Love it. I'll look that up afterwards. Fantastic. And that's a brilliant idea. Whenever you're doing a piece of music, see if you can listen to as many different versions as possible. It's really interesting how they can sound so different depending on the artist. So yeah, fantastic. Sarah's saying fabulous things to take away and practice. Love it. But print it out. Yeah, your eyes are shut now. I can imagine trying to read the tablature on an iPhone's like, yeah, that's, oh my goodness. I need reading glasses when I do that nowadays. I have to squint otherwise. So yeah, but thank you. Thanks, Sarah Jane. That's really, really nice to hear. Thanks, Pam. Thank you, guys. Really, really appreciate that. Love it. What I'll do then, I'll say goodbye in a minute, but let me, I'll play it through one more time in case anyone wants to have a go with me through the whole thing of this version. And then what I'll do, I'll tell you about a couple of things coming up, and then I'll just see if there's any questions. So let's just do one quick version together. So we've tried the whole thing through nice and slowly. So if you're ready and you feel up for it, you can come back to this if you're not. Let's just have a go. So 2, 3. And then move up and back and again. And up. Next line. F all the way. Pinch. Good. Half a G. Bottom line. Pinch. 3, 5. last bit. Remember, it doesn't tell you to, I just like the way it sounds. Yeah, well done everyone. Fantastic. Well, really hope you enjoyed that, folks. A really beautiful tune there. And some hopefully some nice learning about those step thirds, which is just lovely. Thanks, Karen. I love doing them. I always do. It's always interesting. Every time I have a new live lesson, I have a moment of panic where I think, what on earth am I going to teach? And then it's like I wake up and just something comes to me every time. So the worry will be when nothing comes to me. But it hasn't happened yet, and I've been doing it for years, so fingers crossed. Karen's got a question. On the added harmony version in the 4th bar between the 3 and the 5 on the tablature, is that a slur or a slide? Oh, is it one of those Hawaiian slides? No, just a kind of straightforward one for this one, Karen, rather than a Hawaiian one. So me and Karen have been working on some quick slides, haven't we, on one of her pieces, I think. So for this one, just make it the same length of time you play those notes. Like so. Okay, you haven't got to sort of speed it up or anything. Yeah, regular old-fashioned slide. You got it. Exactly. Couple of things to tell you about. So you might have already seen I've done another play along. I'm going to do these every week or two. Might take a little bit longer. It depends what I've got on at that point. But I've done a version of Heron's Lord and Master, which is one of my favourite songs of all time. In fact, I hope this isn't too morbid. I think it's such a beautiful song that I'd actually like it played at my funeral. It makes me so happy that it's a beautiful melancholy song, but it makes me so happy. So if you get a chance, have a look and a listen, and you can join in playing along with Lord and Master. A beautiful song by Heron, which is really lovely. And then for the next live lesson in 2 weeks' time, we've got something completely different. I'm going to do a Green Day song. What? I hear you say. We're going to do Good Riddance. A lot of you will know this as Time of Your Life, which is a really cool song by Green Day. Now, a lot of people think Green Day, you know, kind of super punk. I'm not going to be interested in that. But this is a really beautiful song. And it's one of their acoustic songs. And it's got some gorgeous chords on it that work beautifully on ukulele. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to take some chords up the fretboard. Now, whenever we do chords up the fretboard, people get really panicked that it's going to be, you know, really tricky kind of bar chords that are really tough to do. But sometimes you can play some really simple chords up the fretboard. So like taking a G shape up here to make a C chord. We're going to do a lovely F9 up here just using 2 fingers. And we're going to do this unusual G here. So I'm going to show you how you can take the song and kind of make it more interesting. A minor here, just with 2 fingers, which is really great. See if I can remember it. I think I've got it in front of me just so you can hear what that one's all about. It's something unpredictable. That one, if you know it. Let me just where have it. There we go. Yeah, I've got it on my phone here still, so you might recognise it. So the open chords, really dead simple, just these C. This beautiful F add 9 here. Another turning point, a fork stuck in the road. Time grabs you by the wrist, directs you where to go. So make the best of this test and don't ask why. Ba-da-ba. Hopefully you recognise it. The bit that everyone knows. Something unpredictable, but in the end it's right. I hope you had the time of your life. Really beautiful, right? But what we're going to do is we're going to take those chords and we're going to take them, instead of just doing them, we're going to do some lovely ones up here. So we're going to really kind of zhuzh it up and make it much more interesting. And those chords that you're going to learn up the fretboard, you're going to be able to use them in any song that's in the key of C, like that C. Like that F add 9, gorgeous chord, that G chord there, your A minor here. Really simple, but beautiful sounding. So I'm really looking forward to that. That's going to be 2 weeks time, 3:30 on the Wednesday. Members, you'll find the sheet soon available on the website, and all sorts of details on there as well. So check out mattsteadukulele.com for that one. There we go. So, Karen's asking, can I show the Hawaiian slide again? I still haven't got it. I try my best. Yeah, sure. So basically, a lot of Hawaiian players, I try and see if I can find a piece of Hawaiian music that we can do it to. They'll play a slide a little bit faster than we would traditionally. Let's see if I can find one as an example and show you. I think there's one in Pu'uanahulu, wasn't there, that we're doing? Is that right? Is it that one? Was it? Hey, it might have been a different one. Not here. There it is. Yeah, there's one in this song. Sorry, I'm just finding a bit of sheet music, guys. Leslie, Beatles series is going to start this week. So I'm going to record the first one tomorrow. Should be ready before the weekend to listen to. So if you go on the website, probably Friday evening, you'll see a whole new, if you go to the Learn section where all the courses are, you'll see a whole new one there. I'm going to do one hopefully every week. It might be every 2 weeks, depending on how long it takes me to do them. They're going to, you probably noticed my lessons on my website are getting a bit more longer and more involved, because I'm really enjoying it and getting into it. So should be one that every 1 or 2 weeks, starting this week. So look out on Friday. Hopefully there'll be something there. I'll put it in the blog so everyone knows when it's available, and I'll let you know as well. So yeah, thanks guys. It's a cool song, isn't it? I really like it. Lovely music video to that one. Yeah, Pu'uanahulu is the one I know it from. So Hawaiian slide, yay! Exactly. You know me, Leslie. I love the Beatles, so I'm actually really looking forward to getting into this. So let me just see if I can remember this one roughly. That's really interesting, right? Because I was just looking at this song, Pu'uanahulu. I can't share it because it's one of Jeff's, and I'll even though he's a friend, I don't want to get into copyright issues. But I'm just playing from one of Jeff's books. It's a beautiful book of Hawaiian pieces. But it's really interesting because this song starts with that double stop look that we're just using. So then it goes to another one here, and another one. Here's the slide. Okay, so there's your example, Karen. So normally on a slide, if I do this measure again, it goes in F. Those are your notes. Now, a normal slide would sound something like this. Okay, it would be the length of that it takes me to join those two notes together. But a Hawaiian slide, and often known as a grace slide, you slide from any fret before the one you're heading up to, in this case the 5th fret, and you make it dead quick. So instead of, say, we've got a, I'm really digging into it and making it dead quick. And it's almost like we call it a grace slide. It's very subtle, isn't it? And it's all about, really, what you want to do is just put your finger down anywhere. It could be any one of the frets. I like to go from the 1st fret, sometimes the 3rd. But it's really kind of having the courage of your convictions to stop dead on the 5th fret. That's the important thing. Okay, so when you put that together, I'll play it. Here it comes. It's subtle. I haven't played this in a while. I should probably tell. There it is. It's not a lovely piece. Here it comes up again. Whoops. So on and so forth. So it's all about really going into that note quite hard and quite quickly, basically. And it's often, sometimes it's called a grey slide. You'll notice the little kind of slide, it will be a bit smaller, the symbol. That's always a hint that it's a grey slide. And the other thing is, you notice that when you do, Karen, when you have a look at your sheet music, it starts before the 5, but it's not joined to the 0. That's another hint that you're kind of doing it before that. So yeah. Yeah, Rebecca, that's a great question. Do you slide with any specific finger more than others? That's a great question. I love to slide with my 3rd finger when I'm going up, because I find, I don't know why, I just have a little bit more control. And I can vibrato on my 3rd. I find it hard to vibrato on my 1st fret, because I kind of, when I vibrato, I like to kind of have a finger either side, so it kind of, it allows me to wobble. It gives me 2 bits of wobble. So I'll quite often use that 3rd finger, whereas the 1st finger, I kind of, then I'm stuck if I want to go back here for a note. So I tend to slide the 3rd. You can do it, Venny. You can even do it with your pinky. But I seem to have more control with my 3rd. So yeah. Oh, thanks, Karen. This was a really naughty purchase. So I told myself that I didn't need any more ukuleles. I've got several and I love them, and they're all made by builders I really love and respect. And I thought I didn't need any more ukuleles. And then Pat McGowan, I don't know if you can see in the label there. When I did my Ukulele Festival of Great Britain, he did a luthier talk with Aaron Kime. I've got one of Aaron's ukes as well. I love Aaron's ukes, bean sprout ukuleles. And Pat brought a couple of tenors with him, and I just fell in love with them. I played one in the green room, and it sounded so lush and so sort of warm sounding, and I loved it. But unfortunately, fortunately for someone else, someone bought it the same day and it was already taken. And in fact, the other uke that I played belonged to Elizabeth Pfeiffer, who was on stage that day. So when I got back, I said, Pat, would you build me a ukulele, even though I don't need another one? And he said yes. But then it's kind of a really bittersweet story. So some of you might know him. There was a great player called Donald Boosted, and he did a lot of kind of demos and videos on Facebook and YouTube. You'll still find his demos up there. He did a lot of classical music and things like that. I've chatted to Donald before. He's a really lovely man, but sadly, he was taken away from us far too soon. He was very poorly, and he passed away last year. So this is kind of, it's quite a sad story, but this was built for Donald, and I felt a bit awkward about taking it, but Pat quite rightly said, it would be really nice if someone makes music on it. Basically, it would be really sad for it to just be sat on a wall gathering dust. So this was built for Donald, but I've taken it hopefully in his honour. It's a beautiful ukulele. Can you see? It's got kind of they call that bear claw. It's a spruce top, but it's got like all this kind of unusual figurine, which is really pretty. And then I can't even remember what the backwoods are. I think they're black. I think they're blackwood. Australian blackwood, I think, the back and sides, and he always does these lovely moons. Pat builds ukes for he built ukes for James Hill, so James Hill loves to play Pat McGowan ukes. You can always spot them because James's ukes have the half moon on as well, so, or should not half moon, is it? Someone will probably tell me the right word for it, but sliver of a moon anyway. But yeah, the moment this one came, I just really bonded with it. It's quite unusual because it's a smaller uke than a standard tenor. So the body size, it is a tenor body size, but it's not that much bigger than a concert. The scale length is still the tenor scale length, but it joins at the 12th fret rather than the 14th, like a lot of ukes, which puts the bridge in a real sweet spot, the kind of widest spot down there. So it's quite unusual. It's kind of really, it feels really small and tactile, and I'm quite small, so it works for me really well. Means that I don't have to, it just fits in my lap, and it's really, really comfortable. So yeah, this is my my crescent moon. You've got it. That's it, Esther. So this is my ukulele, and Pat names all of his ukuleles. I don't name my ukuleles because it means that I can't ever sell them. I can't. It's like they're my children then. Not that I've sold many recently. I used to go through them like anything, but now I tend to stick with my ukes, and I've got most of mine I've had for several years now. But this one was named Ariel, so it has its own little personality. This is Ariel, the ukulele, so quite sweet, isn't it? So yeah, fantastic. One day, if anyone's interested, because I love nerding out this stuff, don't know, perhaps no one's interested at all, and that's absolutely fine, but maybe one day I'll go through my collection. We could have a little mini lesson, and I could share my collection, and it could be quite interesting because I could take questions about them, about the different words, different sizes. I could give you some tips on buying ukulele, which luthiers to think about, which factory produce ukes I like, and stuff like that. So that might be quite a fun one. I'll have a think about if anyone's interested for that. It'd be fun. So yeah. Yeah, I've not sold many children, Karen. Oh my goodness, I'd never sell my children. Honest, Gov. So yeah. Oh, thanks, Esther. Even if it's just me and you, Esther, it'd be good fun anyway. That would be good. Oh, there we go. Sarah Jane says yes as well. So brilliant. Fantastic. Okay. We'll do that then. That'll be fun. So I'll show you my collection. We'll make it a real educational thing. So I'll talk about the different words and the different sizes and different builders. It could be fun, couldn't it? It will send everyone's UAS on fire though. Ukulele acquisition syndrome. You know what it's like. I've been looking at a few again, even though I need another ukulele like I need a hole in the head. It never stops. You think, having played for 25 years, and I've owned ukes by like all the builders, and I still lust after certain ones. It's crazy, isn't it? It never ends, honestly. Right, I think I'm gabbing on now, so I'm gonna go and eat myself some tea and look at the news and decide whether to be depressed or not. I said I wouldn't talk about politics. I'll see you in another 2 weeks for the next live lesson, folks. Remember, we've got another Can Acapella this Monday at 6 o'clock. I can't wait. It's going to be a whole heap of fun. We're going to do folk songs, some really fun 60s folk songs this time. So yeah. Ah, Karen, send us a photo. I'd love to see that. You know, I love Sarah and Craig, and I love Canalea Uke, so I would love to see that. That sounds amazing. Oh, thanks, Wayne. There we go. Done and done. Perfect. We'll do that as a next live lesson after this next one coming then. That'll be brilliant. All right, much love, everyone. Have a fantastic rest of your week, and I'll see you next week for Can Acapella, and then live lesson in 2 weeks' time. Beatles stuff going up on Friday. Take care, guys. Bye.